The year was 1096. Europe stood at the precipice of what historians would later call the First Crusade. Pope Urban II had delivered his famous speech at the Council of Clermont, calling for Christian warriors to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. Across the continent, knights and nobles prepared for a journey that would change the course of history. Among them stood Raymond of Toulouse, a respected count and veteran of many battles. Raymond had seen war, its glory and its horrors, but what awaited him and his fellow crusaders would test not only their military might, but their very faith. "We march within the fortnight," Raymond announced to his assembled knights in the great hall of his castle. "The Holy Father has called us to liberate Jerusalem from the infidels. This is not merely a military campaign, but a pilgrimage, a journey of faith." The knights nodded solemnly. They understood what this meant. Many would never return to their homes and families. Those who survived would be forever changed. What Raymond and his contemporaries could not have foreseen was how a specific Catholic prayer ritual would become one of the most feared psychological weapons on medieval battlefields across Europe and the Middle East. This is the true story of how the Vexilla Regis transformed warfare and struck terror into the hearts of opposing armies. The Vexilla Regis, composed by Venantius Fortunatus in 569 CE, was not just any hymn. Its opening lines translated to "The banners of the king advance, the mystery of the cross shines forth." Originally written to celebrate the arrival of a relic of the true cross at the Poitiers monastery, by the 11th century it had evolved into something far more potent. A battle hymn that signaled imminent attack and unwavering resolve. Historical records from the First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, document how Crusader armies would gather before battle to sing the Vexilla Regis in unison. The psychological effect was twofold. For the Christian soldiers, it created a sense of divine protection and purpose. For their opponents, particularly Muslim forces unfamiliar with Christian liturgy, the sight of thousands of armored men chanting in Latin before charging was utterly terrifying. During the Siege of Antioch in 1098, contemporary chronicles describe how the Crusader army, starving and outnumbered, gathered at dawn to sing the Vexilla Regis before launching what should have been a suicidal attack against the Muslim forces of Kerboga, Atabeg of Mosul. The unexpected Christian victory that followed only enhanced the prayer's reputation as a harbinger of divine intervention. The Byzantine princess Anna Komnena, in her historical work, the Alexiad, described the effect of Crusader prayer rituals on opposing forces. "When the Franks began their strange chanting, our allies grew uneasy, saying these men call upon powerful spirits before they fight." Raymond witnessed this phenomenon firsthand during the battle for Jerusalem in 1099. The night before the final assault on the city walls, the entire Crusader army processed around Jerusalem, carrying crosses and chanting the Vexilla Regis. Fatimid defenders watched in dread from the ramparts. "They do not understand our words," Raymond told his lieutenant, "but they understand our resolve. We fight not just for land or glory, but for the salvation of our souls." The historical record confirms that psychological warfare was as important as physical combat in medieval warfare. The Vexilla Regis was part of a sophisticated system of religious rituals designed to unite Christian armies and demoralize their enemies. Before a major battle, priests would perform mass, warriors would take communion, confess their sins, and then join in communal prayers including the Vexilla Regis. By the Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, the reputation of the prayer had grown to legendary proportions. Sultan Saladin's biographers mention how his scouts would report with alarm when Christian forces began their prayer rituals, knowing an attack would soon follow. The phenomenon was not limited to the Crusades. During the Reconquista in Spain, 711-1492, Christian kingdoms fighting to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim control employed similar psychological tactics. The Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa in 1212 began with the combined Christian armies singing liturgical hymns including the Vexilla Regis, creating what one Muslim chronicler described as a sound like thunder rolling across the plains. Even within European conflicts between Christian powers, the prayer maintained its fearsome reputation. During the Hundred Years' War, 1337 to 1453, English longbowmen would sing a vernacular version before releasing their devastating volleys. French knights reported feeling a chill when hearing the distant sound of English voices raised in this ancient hymn. The psychological power of the Vexilla Regis stemmed from several factors that modern military strategists would recognize. First, it created unit cohesion. Warriors singing together formed stronger bonds. Second, it established a predictable pre-battle routine that calmed nerves and focused minds. Third, it presented a unified, intimidating front to enemies. Fourth, it connected the immediate battle to a larger cosmic struggle between good and evil. Perhaps most importantly, it reminded medieval soldiers of their mortality and the spiritual consequences of their actions. Medieval warfare was extraordinarily brutal, with little quarter given. The Vexilla Regis, with its focus on Christ's sacrifice and eventual triumph, provided a theological framework that helped warriors cope with the horrors they would both inflict and witness. Raymond understood this profound psychological dimension of warfare. After surviving the blood-soaked capture of Jerusalem in July 1099, he declined the offered crown of the newly established Kingdom of Jerusalem, choosing instead to continue his military pilgrimage. "What we have done here will echo through time," Raymond told his followers as they prepared to depart Jerusalem. "Not because of the blood we have spilled, but because of the faith that carried us across continents and deserts." Archaeological evidence confirms the importance of religious rituals to Crusader armies. Excavations at Crusader campsites have uncovered numerous religious artifacts, including portable altars for field masses and crosses worn by soldiers. These physical items complemented prayers like the Vexilla Regis, creating a complete sensory experience that reinforced religious zeal. The power of the Vexilla Regis and similar battle prayers extended beyond Christianity. Muslim armies developed their own pre-battle rituals in response. The synchronized call of Allahu Akbar before charging became a fearsome sound to Christian defenders. The psychological battle was as important as the physical one. By the late medieval period, the connection between specific prayers and military success was firmly established in European military thinking. The Portuguese explorers who established trading posts and fortifications across Africa and Asia in the 15th and 16th centuries carried this tradition with them, often beginning their expeditions with the Vexilla Regis. The prayer's military associations eventually diminished with the rise of professional standing armies and the secularization of European society. By the 18th century, drill and discipline had largely replaced religious fervor as the cornerstone of military psychology. However, elements of this tradition survived in military chaplaincies and unit ceremonies. Raymond did not live to see these changes. Like many crusaders, he died far from home, succumbing to illness at the Byzantine port of Tripoli in 1105. His last words, according to his chaplain, were from the Vexilla Regis: "O crux, ave, spes unica, hail, O cross, our only hope." The strategic insights from this historical phenomenon remain relevant today. Modern military psychologists recognize that shared rituals build unit cohesion and resilience. Contemporary military units still employ chants, songs, and ceremonies to forge identity and prepare for combat. The human need for meaning in the face of danger has not changed since Raymond's time. Corporate leaders have adopted similar principles, using shared values and rituals to build team identity. Sports teams employ pre-game rituals that echo medieval battle preparations. Political movements create chants and symbols that unite followers. The psychological tools that made the Vexilla Regis effective continue to shape human behavior in the 21st century. What makes the Vexilla Regis particularly fascinating to military historians is how it transcended its original purpose. A liturgical hymn became a psychological weapon so effective that its mere sound could demoralize enemy forces. It reminds us that warfare has always been fought on multiple levels: physical, psychological, and spiritual. The prayer's effectiveness also demonstrates how cultural differences can be weaponized. What seemed normal and comforting to European Christians appeared alien and frightening to their opponents. In our globally connected world, understanding different cultural perspectives remains crucial for effective leadership and conflict resolution. Perhaps the most enduring lesson from the story of the Vexilla Regis is the power of shared belief. Medieval armies, fighting with relatively primitive weapons and facing daunting logistical challenges, accomplished extraordinary feats partially because they were united by common rituals and beliefs. The prayer did not just terrify their enemies. It transformed ordinary men into warriors willing to endure extreme hardship for a cause they deemed sacred. Raymond of Toulouse and his contemporaries understood something that modern leaders sometimes forget. Human beings are not merely rational actors, but complex creatures driven by emotion, identity, and belief. By addressing these deeper aspects of human psychology, medieval commanders could inspire ordinary people to extraordinary actions. The terrifying power of the Vexilla Regis reminds us that the most effective leadership engages both heart and mind. Whether in business, politics, or community organizing, those who can connect immediate challenges to deeper values and shared identity will inspire greater commitment and resilience. As we face our own contemporary challenges, from climate change to political polarization, we might consider what lessons can be drawn from this medieval prayer that once terrified armies. Not its specific religious content, but its ability to create unity, purpose, and resolve among diverse groups facing daunting obstacles. The echoes of those long-ago voices, raised in unison before battle, remind us of the enduring human need for meaning and connection, even, perhaps especially, in our darkest and most challenging moments.